What's going on? Happy Sunday morning. So recently Netflix released a comedy roast, Kevin Hart's comedy roast, and a comedian by the name of Tony Hinchcliffe. He made a joke about George Floyd uh apparently looking up. He would laugh, but he can't breathe. And so of course that has many people upset that a joke was made about a black man, okay? And so let's talk about that. Being lazy today. Come on, Samson. Okay, so Tony Hinchcliffe made that joke during the Kevin Hart comedy roast. Now we all know roast, comedy roast. There's no rules. Okay, it's hands off. Go for what you know. Comedy roast. That's what make comedy roast. Comedy roast. Okay, you'll hear some of the most outlandish, dark jokes people can come up with. Okay, and so Tony Hinchcliffe he made this joke about George Floyd that he would be laughing with Kevin Hart, but he's looking up and he can't breathe. All right. So as we all know who George Floyd was, he was the black man up in Minnesota that was out committing a crime. When the police showed up, he was resisting, of course, and the officer Derek Chauvin had his knee on his neck, and he lost his life. Okay. Now I just want to say this first. I remember when I first saw the video of it, I was upset as well as many other people, okay? I felt like the police officer was using too much force and so on, okay? Now, uh, uh, what came after that, really any kind of compassion I may have had for George Floyd in that moment went flying out the window when we saw the rioting, the looting, the all-out violence, how they canonized this individual who added nothing to society. Okay, George Floyd was a dope fiend, a criminal, a lifelong criminal. He added nothing to society. He was a menace to the black community. It is the truth. All right, every black community, every impoverished neighborhood has a George Floyd. Okay, I know people like this. All right, personally, they just get high and commit crime, and that is their life. They add nothing to society. He was in the process of committing a crime, and that is why the police were called. Okay, now he lost his life. A lot of more information has come out since then. It was because of fentanyl overdose. I'm sure the stress of the moment and the police having him restrained the way they did added to him losing his life. But ultimately, the decisions that George Floyd made put him in that position. Okay, I am a firm believer of that. We always had an understanding back in the day when we ran the streets and we were doing outlaw stuff, being criminals, that whatever came with it, that's what came with it. Okay, you don't start crying foul when you're out breaking the law. Okay, and we know we live in different times. So I just want to say, like I said, behind the result of George Floyd dying, I lost all compassion for the man behind the response of it. Okay, it was just over the top, ridiculous. We saw how BLM, Black Lives Matter, which is was a scam. Everybody knows that now. Just raised all this money, didn't give any of the money to the Floyd family, and they went and bought mansions and cars and just spent all that money on themselves, right? And so, behind this joke that Tony Hinchcliffe made about George Floyd, uh, uh, the civil rights attorney, what's her name? Nakima Levy. Now, many may remember her. She is that black woman. She's a civil rights attorney, activist in Minnesota, who's now under. She has a federal case. She's the black woman that organized that church protest, right, when ICE were in Minnesota, and her and Don Lemon and about 15 other agitators, activists, domestic terrorists, if you ask me, went into a church during a Sunday service and disrupted the service, right? Which is the most disrespectful thing you can do, right? And so thankfully she was charged. I pray she gets found guilty and held accountable for doing that, all right? It's one thing to protest. It's another thing to go into a house of worship and to be agitators, to be protesting while people are trying to worship, okay? That's totally unacceptable. All right, and so she's that lady. So now, of course, behind this joke, she is with the George Floyd family. BLM is on the scene again, trying to raise more money, and she's calling for Kevin Hart to publicly apologize, which I pray he don't. Okay, he better not bend the knee to the stupidity. Okay, George Floyd is nobody that we can't make fun of. Okay, I mean, let's cut it out. In fact, during that very same roast, a joke was made about Charlie Kirk, right? We don't hear no outcry about that. And if we had to choose, Charlie Kirk was a man whose death led to a revival. Okay, let's just keep it real. And who added to society, who wasn't a criminal, who wasn't a drug addict, okay? He was assassinated for his free speech. He wasn't out committing a crime, okay? And the joke was made about his untimely death. We don't hear no uproar about that. But then when you compare that to a George Floyd, a dope fiend, a lifelong criminal who added nothing to society at all whatsoever, right? And whose death sparked riots and looting and killing, right? And so to sit there and say that we can't make a joke about this low life, in my opinion, is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And it just goes to show how this civil rights attorney, this activist, she is just a race grifter, okay, along with BLM. And I just want to highlight that because it's just ridiculous, you know, to sit back and to demand that Kevin Hart apologizes and all that for what? It's a comedy roast. It was a joke. You know, I didn't particularly find it funny. You know, I the only thing I found funny about it was the audacity of it. You know, the courage to do it. Right? I found that to be funny. Right? Not the joke necessarily. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that somebody would actually have the courage to do it, knowing that within the black community, George Floyd is enshrined as a saint, right? That's so ridiculous, right? And that just goes to show that's one of the problems in the black community is that we we put degeneracy on a pedestal. You know what I'm saying? A man like George Floyd shouldn't have no statues and murals. His name shouldn't even be mentioned all these years later. He added nothing to society at all whatsoever, you know. And a lot has come out about the BLM movement, how, you know, that was just a scam. These three black ladies, Marxists, right? They were trained under Marxism, started this movement and scammed the whole country out of tens and tens of millions of dollars and just went and spent it all upon themselves, right? And just to drive home that point, we just recently had a 7-year-old black girl. She was killed in a drive-by shooting, caught a stray bullet the next town over from me. And her killer is still on the loose. You don't see BLM out protesting and marching for justice for this little black girl. So that whole BLM movement is a bunch of garbage. This civil rights activist attorney in Minnesota, she is a low life in my opinion. You know, especially when she did that protest in the church. You know, to do something like that had me so upset I couldn't believe it, right? And so and then once again, they're using George Floyd, right, to enrage the black community, to try to raise more money, and to bring somebody like Kevin Hart to heel by demanding that he apologizes, right? And I pray that Kevin Hart, you better not bend the knee to this, and nobody that was in that roast better bend the knee to this. It was a joke made under free speech, like it or not. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. You know what I'm saying? George Floyd is nobody that we can't make fun of. He should be made fun of, right? And so I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit me with a subscribe, a like, and a comment. I welcome it all. So until next time.